As soon as the recording starts. Hello, welcome to a thesis defense at Atlantic International University. Today's date is the 30th of June, 2023. My name is Dr. Edward Lambert, and I'm with Eduardo Loren Oviana, who is doing a doctorate program in legal studies. Welcome. Good to see you today.
Uh, good afternoon. Here in Brazil is good afternoon. So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, especially Dr. Edward Lambert. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. Well,
Now hold
yes.
on. This is being recorded, so we're going to have another advisor or two. Today's Friday, so they will also review the recording to make sure that what you present relates to your thesis and that all of the information you present is within your major of legal studies, and that if they have any questions about your thesis or any changes that need to be made, we'll get in touch with you. But if not, they would just approve this process of the thesis defense. And also, now let's go ahead and verify your identity. What is your date of birth?
I was born in December 6, 1983.
Okay. Now, first I want to ask you, why are you studying a doctorate in legal studies? What is your purpose?
For me, I am a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, and I'm also a professor. And it's very important to know more about how the legal subjects works in United States and also how they works here in Brazil. Because despite we have different bases, we have different legal bases in United States and Brazil, I can see that there is one point that is similar. That is the black people, the African American and African Brazilian are more subject, are more are victims of a process of incarceration and policy violence that happens both in United States and also in Brazil. So my research addressed exactly this subject, policy violence and mass incarceration in Brazil and the United States.
Perfect. So continue on with your research for your thesis. If I have any
Excuse me?
questions, if I have any questions, you'll have about 15 minutes to summarize the issue that you're studying, how you researched it, and how you analyzed your research, and then the recommendations and conclusions.
Okay. I'm going to get started. Okay. All protocols observed, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and a singular privilege standing before you today to present my doctoral thesis entitled Policy Violence and Mass Incarceration in Brazil and in the United States, a comparative approach. My name is Eduardo Lourenço Viana. I am a Brazilian lawyer and professor. First of all, I would like to thank my advisor, Dr. Harry Schuba, and also Dr. Edward Lambert, and also my tutor for so long time, Dr. Beatricia Miacor. Without your support, nothing of this would be possible. Police violence and mass incarceration experienced by Black population is not exclusive to American people. Developing countries in the global south face the same kind of problem. It is necessary to understand the causes and the consequences of these problems, as well as to present possible solutions for them. As is shown in this thesis, the number of Black people incarcerated or victims of policy violence in Brazil and the United States are alarming. Based on a review of the literature on human rights, law enforcement, policy violence and mass incarceration, and using the deductive and bibliographical methods, as well as using the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the National Prisoner Statistics website, and the statistical analytical reports of Brazilian prison system, and finally the National Penitentiary Department and the Brazilian Public Safety Forum as sources of data. This research aimed to understand what are the causes and the consequences of the policy violence and the mass incarceration practiced against Black people in the United States and Brazil, as well as presenting possible solutions to overcome these problems. The research has shown that in addition to the historical process of colonial formation and the transatlantic slave trade, which occurred in both countries, stereotypes also play a central role in maintaining these legal and social problems. The conclusions reached were that dealing with these problems as abnormalities of the Western mode of production is a posture doomed to failure. To overcome this problem, new hermeneutic, epistemological, and ontological bases are needed. Bases that the bases that are presented throughout the thesis and that can serve as a theoretical reference not only for the present research, but as a new paradigm of knowledge production for several fields of knowledge. I would like to give you three examples of hard situations that are not uncommon in Brazil and the United States. The first time it happened was late at night. The young teacher was driving his Honda motorcycle 1998, returning from work in a dark street close to his residence. Less than 50 meters from his house, he saw a vehicle badly parked in the middle of the street, as well as a figure heading towards his motorcycle. Afraid of a robbery, the teacher tried to dodge the figure, at which point the motorcycle's headlights illuminated the vehicle and the person moving towards him. It was a policeman already with the gun in hand, pointed at the center of the motorcycle's chest. The teacher stopped his motorcycle. Both the policeman and the teacher were very scared. The gun shook in the cop's hands. The second time it happened, it was during the day, around 4 in the afternoon. The teacher was driving his Honda motorcycle on a narrow road, very common in the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil. Almost arriving in Ouro Preto city, there was a police checkpoint. The police drew his gun with his right hand, pointed it at the motorcyclist's chest, and signaled for him to stop. There was a deep coldness in the policeman's eyes. The third time it happened, the teacher was at the Congonhas airport in São Paulo. He had gone throughout the metal detector before boarding. However, he had forgotten to remove a pair of sunglasses from his jacket pocket. The glasses got stuck in his pocket and took a while to come out, which was enough for a federal agent to understand that he needed to draw his gun, pointed it to the teacher's chest, and ordered him to remove his jacket. The world today faces problems that are repeated in different countries. Profound difficulty in dealing with differences and inclusion, climate change, environmental imbalances and pollution, supremacy ideologies of one group over another one, especially issues related to white supremacy ideology, generally linked with sexism and patriarchy. These are problems that we see very often. It is very common for people to see these problems as anomalies, seeing them as distortions. Although the theoretical references used in these doctoral theses seek to show that, on the contrary, the problems that society faces today are not abnormalities. They are not a distortion. They are a logical and expected consequence of the epistemological and ontological foundation of the modern world. This thesis starts from the premise that the word epistemology represents the theory of knowledge, that is, the way in which human beings produce and scientifically validate their knowledge, currently correlating their mind with the understanding of the world around them. The assumption is still used here that ontology is the study of the concrete being, inserted in its reality and the way in which these rational beings understand the world that surrounds him or her, in the search for the meaning of his or her all existences. Racism, sexism, violence, exploitation of one human being by another human being, pollution, degradation, and depletion of natural resources. Western thought often sees these and other problems as an anomaly, a flaw in the Western mode of production. However, Senegalese researcher Professor Sheikh Tian, teaching on Amherst College in Massachusetts, United States, based on authors such as Frantz Fanon, Leopold Sandhorn, among others, teaches us that such problems are a logical consequence of the Western epistemological basis. There is nothing new or unusual about these problems. They are inherent in the West way of thinking about the world. The basis of our argument is that the Western world needs to study and apply a new epistemological and ontological references. If humanity continues to address its already mentioned general problems, such as the difficulty of dealing with difference and inclusion, environmental imbalance, and white supremacy ideologies from the same epistemological and ontological basis that generated these problems, we will be doomed to failure. We will be doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And the worst, we run the risk of being literally consumed by them, by the impossibility of maintaining sustainable human life on Earth. By way of the limitation of the theme, it's important to clarify to the reader and to the listener that the present scientific research will deal with the problem of policy violence, especially against minority groups. This problem is not a phenomenon unique to United States. Countries in the global south, such as Brazil, experience the same problem. Understanding the causes and the consequences of the policy violence and of the mass incarceration in Brazil and the United States, as well as pointing out legally adequate solutions for them, is not an easy task, but is what we humbly propose to do in this doctoral thesis. Well, I have only 15 minutes to show everything, so many things I have been researching. So I think if Dr. Edward Lambert agree with me, I think it's the most important thing I need to do is to show some data that I have been collecting on both in Brazilian sources that address the theme policy violence and the mass incarceration, and also in American data that I have been collecting, that I have been bringing together with regard to the American policy system and also the mass incarceration that happens in United States. Do you agree, Dr. Lambert, that I go to the point that is the numbers of policy violence and the mass incarceration? Is it good for you?
Yeah, this is an important part to actually have the data. I see that you get your data from the Bureau of Justice Statistics and National Prisoner Statistics website,
Yes, yes. It's the main
and
source.
also
It's a
and
very
also the
important source.
yes. And let's see, you got the National Penitentiary Department of the Brazilian Public Safety,
Yes.
analytics report of the Brazilian prison system. So your sources for your data are directly from the
Strong,
government.
strong sources. We can have confidence on these sources because they are governmental sources that helps the government in the United States and in Brazil to address these type of matters. I'm going to speak a little about the data we have been collecting. Well, the first when the listener, if in the future the listener have the opportunity to read my thesis, you are going to find some tables and some charts that I built with regard to this result. The first table that you are going to see is one that address the years 2017 until 2020, and it is related to federal prisons in the United States in this time, 2017 to 2020. We can see that the number of people incarcerated in the United States in 2017 was 1,089 1,089,000 people, more than almost 1,050,000 people. But in 2020, this number was only of 1 million. 2000 more than 1,002,000 people in the prison. You can see that we have a lower number in this time. But if you think that this is a good news for we black people. It is not a good news. And why do I say that? If you think in the same period, and you are going to see it on our table 3, with regard the number of black, white, and Spanish people in American penitentiaries, you are going to see that we have these following numbers. In the year of the same period between 2017 to 2020, but I'm going to address specifically the year of 2017 as example of the result I have been building. We had in the year of 2017 for 473,000 of black people, 436,000, more than 436,000 of white people, and more than 300 300,000 Hispanic people arrested in under the state and the federal order under the it was in jail, was in the penitentiaries in the United States. And if you take a look on this imaging for a first time, you are going to understand and to think that the number are not so different, because for more almost 5,000 for 500,000 for black people, a little less than 500,000 for white people. Is no, these numbers are similar, but we can't forget some important thing, that that is a quick and inattentive reading of numbers in the thesis can lead to a serious mistaken conclusion. The existence of numerical proximity between black, white, and Spanish people arrested in the United States in the period considered. Such a conclusion is deeply misleading, because it's necessary to remember that black people correspond to only around 13% of the American population, but they continue to be the majority of its prison population, despite overall downward trend in the number of incarcerated persons. This becomes clear when we consider the imprisonment rates per 100,000 inhabitants. We can see this information when you have the opportunity to read my thesis in the table 4 and also in the chart 4, that shows the imprisonment rate among blacks, whites, and Hispanics per 100,000 inhabitants between 2017 and 2020. In the year of 27, that's the year that I was quoting as example for only for instance, we had 1,161 Black people incarcerated in the United States, and only 2021 white people and 575 Hispanic people. Remember, we are thinking in a rate of incarcerated people only 100 100,000 people. The rate of inhabitants incarcerated, the imprisonment rate among blacks, whites, and Hispanic per 100,000 people. So you can see that despite the black population is only 13% of the American population, they are more than 3 times more more susceptible, more likely to be incarcerated than other ones. And I'm going to show also some information also about the prison rate in Brazil per 100,000 inhabitants between 2017 and 2021. Uh, Especially, I'm going to show the informations about the year 2017. We had in Brazil a rate of 349.8 uh, people incarcerated in its 100,000 inhabitants. And in the year of 2010-21, we had 384.7 people incarcerated on that period, in that year 2021. So if on one hand we see in the United States a downward trend of incarceration overall, but remember, more than 1 million of people are incarcerated in the United States, so it's a large number, but we had a trend of lower numbers of people incarcerated between 2017 and 2020 in United States, but in Brazil between 2017 and 2021 we have uh, uh, a larger number of people incarcerated when we think in a rate of 100,000 inhabitants. The Brazilian data covering 2017 and 2021 reveals that despite a slight drop between 2019 and 2020, there is a trend towards a progressive increase in incarceration in Brazil. Though through this, it is Brazilian Public Security Yearbook. The Brazilian Public Security Forum highlights the need to improve its mechanisms for collecting data on its prison population. For example, in the year of 2021, there was 820, more than 820 people in custody in Brazil, according to data from the National Penitentiary Department, that is the PEN, which consolidated this data from state and federal prisons. However, when analyzing the data provided by the National Prison Monitoring Bank, which consolidated this data from the reports provided by the arrests, warrants, and the penal execution courts, the number of people in custody rises to 917, more than 919, more than 919,000 people arrested in Brazil, also for the year 2021. The serious discrepancy between both equally official sources reveals the need to unify the mechanisms for consolidating this data. But the conclusion we can reach is that, regardless of the sources, be it the PEN or the National Prison Monitoring Bank, Brazil is fast approaching reaching the mark of 1 million people serving some type of sentence. Perhaps now, when I am presenting these theses, this mark has already been crossed, maybe. Brazil has the third largest prison population in the world, according to the World Prison Brief consolidated by the London University. But it is when the age and the skin color is considered that the mass incarceration of Brazilian population proves to be even more cruel. According to the yearbook, almost half of prisoners in Brazil are between 18 and 29 years old. In addition, 67.5% of all prisoners are black people, but the black people are only around 67, 56% of the Brazilian population. This data reveals the need for Brazil to adopt more adequate measures to prevent crime among young people in general and among Black people in particular. In addition, it is necessary to find legal measures that are more efficient than incarceration. Percentage on table 6 in my research, you are going to see the percentage of race color distribution of the prison population in Brazil in the year of 2021. We had on that year 76.5% of blacks, 29% of whites, 3% of yellows, and 0.5% of indigenous. So you can see that more than a half of all the people in the prison in Brazil are black people. The same thing happens also in United States. Another thing that I wanted to show, another data that I think is important to show for you, is the percentage of black people that was arrested in Brazil in the year of 2011 and the year of 2021. In the year of 2011, the percentage was 60.3% of black people and 36.6% of white people. And in the year of 2021, we had 67.5% of blacks and 29% of whites. So you can see that we have a lower number of whites. We have a trend of a diminution, a lower number of white people in prison in Brazil, but we have a trend of a larger number of black people incarcerated in Brazil in those years. If the trend presented in the last decade is maintained for the next decades, while on the one hand, the number of white people arrested in Brazil tends to fall, like is happening also in the United States, on the other hand, the number of black people arrested in Brazil only tends to increase, reaching not only the majority but also the entire prison population. It is as if Brazilian prisons tended to imprison a specific group of Brazilian population. This scenario also needs to be questioned. Well, I don't want to show every single thing that I have been researching because it's important. Our listeners has also the opportunity to read what is written on my thesis. So I'm going to straight to the conclusion and giving the floor open for any type of question if some of you have any questions. I'm going to the conclusion um, uh, for to give the our listeners what I have been what I researched with this research. Well, let me see. Our conclusion is on the chapter 9, and what I have been what I concluded. I believe you must remember the stories that started this thesis. That are not fictional. These are not fictional stories, but real facts that happened to me. Those three situations that I experienced are directly related to the violence that Black people are most subject to in Brazil and the United States. In the first situation, the predominant factor was not the color of my skin. It was dark, I was wearing a raincoat and a helmet. It was impossible to know whether I was black or white. But the fact that I was a motorcyclist who lived on that time in a peripheral region was decisive. If the policeman couldn't control his nervousness and the gun went off, my life would probably have become one more number in the statistics. The second time it happened, I think it was a combination of prejudice against motorcyclists and the pure and simple racism. It was a sun afternoon. I was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt. I was riding the motorbike almost to a stop because I knew that there was a great chance that I would be stopped at that policy checkpoint. There was no need for the policeman to draw his gun. Still, he did it. The third time I assessed it was a combination of racism on the part of the officer and an inattention of all party. I say inattention because I made sure I was not carrying any metal instrument, but I forgot my glasses, which were momentarily stuck in my pocket. Enough time for the agent to assume it was a gun and pull out his pull out his gun, even though I warned that it was my glasses. I understand that the training he received must indicate that conduct, but what kind of bandit would be carrying a gun with his wife and two small children at his side, one of them being a baby? The agent did not take that into account in the moment he drew his gun. All of this happened before I went to law school. Maybe today I would act differently. I would ask the names of those police officers, seek information from their leadership, but the fact is that we black men are much more subjected, we black men and we black people, we are much more subjected to being incarcerated and or dying in policy actions. As someone who has literally felt the damage that such errors can cause firsthand, I want to present some possible solutions. The first one, we need improvements in policy training and improvement courses, including disciplines regarding respect for human rights and the use of non-lethal methods in approaches, inclusion of disciplines to combat stereotypes and other forms of prejudice in general and to combat racism in particular in the training and improvement curricula of these officers. Second is improvements in training and improvement courses for prosecutors, judges, and the public defenders, so that disciplines on respect for human rights and combating stereotypes in general and racism in particular are included in their curricula. Mandatory use of cameras on police uniforms as mechanisms for reviewing approaches made by them. Improvements in the structure of public defenders, both in terms of the number of defenders and facilitating access for less favored people to these professionals as a means of ensuring the contradictory and the ample defense, including on the appeal. 50th is the judge's responsibility for accompanying the convict in his or her sentence must establish a sentence plan that encourages the study, the work, and the rehabilitation of him or her. Penitentiaries need to be completely restructured in order to become an environment that actually allows the rehabilitation of inmates. For that, more important than penitentiary agents is the presence of social workers, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, a true multidisciplinary team that will monitor the fulfillment of the sentence and suggest adjustments that promote the resocialization of the convicted during and after his or her period of imprisonment. Policy violence and the high rates of incarceration suffered by Black people result in a vicious cycle that disrupted Black families. The cycle needs to be broken through social policies that ensure access to education, health, decent housing, and working. The decent housing and working. The basic human rights is ensuring that in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights cannot be seen as mere words, but as universal norms to which all people are entitled to enjoy. The numbers of violence suffered by Black people in their incarceration are alarming both in Brazil and the United States. Both Brazil and the United States have serious agencies that monitor the size of their prison population. Despite the constant need to improve data collection methodology, these sources have a high degree of reliability and transparency. In turn, the United States needed to better collect and disseminate data regarding policy violence practiced by its agents. As unlike Brazil, these data are not directly accessible to the American population. This fact reduces the transparency of policy actions practiced in the United States and perpetuates the cycle of violence present there. Although Brazil has statistical data that prove policy violence, especially the practiced against the Black population, the country still has a long way to go in consolidating public policies that reduce this violence. The historical roots of this reality go back to the transatlantic slave trade that took place in the both countries, but a process that took place so long ago needs new mechanisms to perpetuate itself. This is where the role of stereotypes stand out, which describe who Black people are, creating an almost mythological being associated with what is negative and which prescribes social place that Black people can occupy within society, namely the underemployment and the penitentiary cells, the true dungeons of the 21st century. Either you go along with it or you move and fight to overcome it. There is no a third option. Make your choice. In order to overcome the problems resulted here, we need to find a new ontological and new epistemological basis. And the utocentric philopraxis may be a viable solution since the Ubuntu philosophy breaks with the view of hierarchy among people and removes the human being from the centrality of his world, placing him as one more element that constitutes the vibrant nature that animates all living and no living beings. My final message is, we live in challenging times, but this should not weaken our hope in building better days. The mere existence of spaces like this, where serious academic research can be conducted and disseminated, is a sign of change. I believe that health and lasting changes must occur from the inside out. Our way of thinking about the world, of seeing people and ourselves needs to be reviewed, revisited, and questioned. We need an alternative cosmovision, new ways of interacting with the world that are more respectful of other human beings with to the nature and the environment as a whole. I believe in change and I have faith in humanity. I am sure we are on the right track. Ashanti Sana, thank you very much. Otepi, be at peace, be well, and Ubuntu. I am who I am because we are all. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Especially, I thank you very much, Dr. Edward Lambert, to listen to me and all the members of the board. If you have any questions, I am I'm here to answer. It was a great pleasure. Thank you very much, Atlantic International University, because this open space to build a true research, a true scientific research is very important, especially for us that are lawyers and we need to better address some important issues.
Thank you so much, Eduardo Lorenzo Viana. Um, Let me just say, law and legal studies has the primary goal of social justice. And when you look at how, say, the Black experience of coming from their land as slaves to these lands, and then being viewed as slaves and being stereotyped and being having their prejudices against them for so long, leading to this social injustice of unemployment, lack of opportunity, lack of inclusiveness in the society. This is a social injustice. And working towards turning that around is one of the highest responsibilities that the legal system has in this modern world. And people need to change, people need to open their minds and understand what is the error in stereotyping and forming all this prejudice against people. And so you research this topic, you look at the data, you look at the statistics, you see this problem still exists. And it's this is a symptom of society. So this is a social injustice. This is not just one person here or there. This is society creating an injustice. That's why the larger percentage of Black people are in prison. There are reasons, social reasons, creating that situation. This is a symptom of a situation that society is creating for them. Do you agree with all that? And so your work is so important. I want to know, and we all want to know, what is your plan? How are you going to take this research and make a difference in the world?
Well, I think it's important to give a step ahead, and I'm going to try to public these theses in English. It was written in English. I'm going to translate also it to the Portuguese, and I'm going to try to publish a book about these theses also in Portuguese and also in English. I am already a member of several national and international institutions that fight against racism. One of these institutions is the Unified Black Movement. In Portuguese is MNU. MNU, Unified Black Movement, Movimento Negro Unificado. Here in Brazil, we have thousands of members, and I'm going to share these researches with them and use these researches of a tool as a tool to overcome the problem here in Brazil. But I will try also to publish this document in English because it was originally written in English. I'm a member also of some international groups that act in the Nigeria, South Africa. I have friends in Senegal. I have also friends in Cabo Verde, Angola, Moçambique. I have friends also in Netherlands, and we call diaspora. Diaspora are the black people that live outside of the Africa continent, but we are all united by the Ubuntu energy. So I truly believe that this document that I built within AIU will will make sense of our work with regard to overcoming this so difficult problem. I know that this is not only a challenge for my generation. My generation is going to do this job. My children are going to do this job. My grandchildren are also going to do this job. But always with the aim, always with the goal to see the world being a better place in the future. I can't hear you. You excuse me.
Sorry, my
Okay.
microphone was muted. Do you plan to do any documentaries in video form and say publish them through YouTube, for example?
Yes, I can summarize it. Yes, I can summarize it and share with the others. I need to summarize it better. I was not quite sure
No,
how
I
long time
mean,
I had.
can you create like a visual, a documentary with cameras showing different cases of this and giving the statistics and talking about the history and then talking about the social injustice? Are you planning any like videos that can be published through like YouTube, online videos? Do you have any plans for that?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will do that. I will do that. Very good
Because
idea.
nowadays that's the most powerful way to get your message out is put it up on YouTube, for example, and publish a documentary about what you see and the issues. So if you can get together with a filmmaker and someone who edits films and they can create a good product for you, that'll really get your message out in a powerful way, much more powerful than just publishing a written essay, much more powerful.
Okay. Very good idea. Thank you very much, Dr. Edward Lambert.
And if you have to get together with a couple of other of your colleagues and pool your money, get your money together and say, okay, let's start working up a series of documentaries, one in Angola, one in Mozambique, one here in Brazil, and we'll start developing a series of documentaries on this issue in different countries.
Oh, I'm going to take note. I'm going to take note. Very good. Very good idea.
And so you can start by pooling your money for one country first, and then you can start pooling your money for the second country, and then you can start pooling your money together for the third country, and you put it all under one organization so that everybody knows it's your organization doing these series of videos, and then the message will be very powerful because you'll be connected.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Very good idea. I really
Because
appreciate it.
because even in the Netherlands, you have contacts.
Yes.
You have contacts in many parts of the world. South Africa,
Yes.
yeah, and so you're going to have get together with your colleagues and say, let's pool together and form an organization to start filming documentaries. Powerful, powerful.
Wonderful idea. Congratulations. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Well, we don't have much time because of the we don't have much time now. So we have your written thesis, we have your summary, so we have all the work is original to you. We have the depth of your research, we have the scope of your research, we have the goal of your research, and we also have you saying, this is going to last many generations. And yes, it's true. This will be many generations dealing with these issues in a significant way. But you are out there fighting with your colleagues, making a difference to have a better world. So we are here to support you, and we appreciate your thesis work and your research work because this is one of the most important issues in the world that millions of people have a lower quality of life because of this issue. And so it's going to take generations to transform how people think about other people. In time, it will come. More intermarriages, more people living together, more people sharing space, more people working together. Through time, it will happen, but it's going to take time and effort,
Yes.
just like you say. So I really appreciate your work.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity and your support. It only was possible because AIU was a very important open-ed space for scientific research. Thank you very much, sir. And may I have a copy of this video? Is it is being recording?
Mhm.
I can't I'm not able to pay to take a a print of the screen. So I would really appreciate to if
Yeah,
possible we
I will send you a copy. I will send you a copy.
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I think we're going to have to end there, but you have done wonderful work in a very important issue. So you have our support and our appreciation.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
So we will conclude now the thesis defense by Eduardo Lorenzo of Viana, who's doing a doctorate in legal studies. Thank you so much for your work and your vision and the work you had to have ahead of you and the future generations of your family and of other families, all of our families, the future work they have to do.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, and also thank you to the Atlantic International University. Thank you for your management. Thank you for your advisement. Thank you for all your support, sir. I really appreciate it.
Okay, with that, we will now conclude. I will stop the recording.